What is up, guys? Lynn here with a quick video for you all. I don't know how quick this is going to be, but I have not discussed the Steam Deck at all here on the channel. And I wanted to go ahead and do a discussion and break down this 4 hour, close to 4 hour developer stream that Valve did back on November the 12th. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Some things was omitted. A lot of this is paraphrased, of course, but a lot of things were omitted because it is a developer's live stream. So there's a lot of technical stuff, that I did not put in here, but we're going to go ahead and discuss the key points that I felt that was important, as well as discuss the questions that was asked. Again, not all questions are covered, and a lot of this is paraphrased. Started out with Lawrence Yang, a developer for the Steam Deck, which has good news in reference to serving the developer community, stating that you can essentially test your own games with the computer that you currently have. And here's how. As far as input, your game should have full controller support. To test this is simple as plugging in your controller to your computer and connecting one by Bluetooth. The Switch Pro controller, the Xbox, the PlayStation, or even a Steam controller will suffice for this. Take note where within the game you will use keyboard and mouse. Basically, you'll be going through the Steam Deck compatibility checkpoints. You're highly encouraged to make a default controller support function for your game if you don't already have one. You'll need to make sure your display is 1280 by 800 or 720 and resize your screen to 7 inches to make sure the text is still legible, or you can use any monitor of the same size that supports 1280 by 800 resolution. As far as the system, you'll need Linux, Steam OS, and I've lost my space. Steam OS and Proton installed on a machine. Here's what you would do in order to get the system situated to run your game. You would create a boot disk and install Manjaro, which is an Arch Linux distribution. So you download the official version for free. You'll get an ISO file. You turn that ISO file into a bootable USB by using a free application called Rufus or Etcher. You'll need a USB stick at least 4 gigs. You'll use this to create a bootable disk of Manjaro. You'll then use this USB stick to boot your PC. Start your PC into the boot drive with the USB stick installed. Booting into your boot drive depends on the PC. Sometimes it's F7 or F1 or whatever. You have to figure that out, which you would use for your particular PC. Follow the on-screen instructions from there. Once completed, you'll end up on the KDE Plasma desktop. Steam should already be installed, so you'll boot into Steam, let it install, and run Steam Play. To get to Steam Play, you will go to Settings, Steam Play, Turn On for all titles. Make sure Proton Experimental is checked, and you're done. Download and install your game and play it to be sure that it's compatible with the Steam Deck. If you have a separate PC from the one you installed Manjaro on that you can run Linux, you can test your builds by running the Steam OS Dev Client and Steam OS Dev Kit service. Run one on each PC, and from there you can fully test the game, and from uploading builds to debugging, etc. In terms of performance, there is a mini PC compatible to the Steam Deck that you can purchase on Amazon with similar specs that can be used. Nothing was placed in the description to annotate this, so you will have to search for the similar product based on the specs of the deck in the search or whatever on Amazon site. Why did I put this information in here? I put this information in here to show that Valve is really trying to, support the devs any way they can in trying to get their games on compatible with and on Steam OS. So I think that is really cool. Let's go into some questions here. Again, these are paraphrased. So the status on dev kit requests. What's the status on dev kit requests and how do you decide who gets one? Requests are looked at daily, but there is a lack of kits available. A new batch of dev kits will be available soon and they will begin dispatching them. Dev kits are being sent all around the world, so there is no restrictions. Is the dev kit EV2 hardware issue being addressed? Yes, issues have been noted and fixed in the subsequent builds. Can a VM be used on Steam Deck? Technically, yes, but you won't be able to test GPU performance. Can you use a retail Steam Deck as a dev kit? Yes, the dev kits are prototype retail units. There is no special hardware or software in a dev kit. Will devs who weren't able to get a dev kit be able to skip the line to get a retail Steam Deck? They are looking into that, but will also continue to make dev kits through launch. More info will be coming soon. AMD or Intel CPU while building a quote unquote test box. Any will work, but the closest match testing of the deck is AMD. AMD would be the best bet. If a game is quote unquote verified on deck, will it get more visibility on Steam? Yes, but only on the Steam Deck. It will be different on Steam OS. Now we're getting into the second portion here. Yazan, hardware engineer for Valve, was speaking about the deck. He said the deck is a PC with an optimization for handheld gaming. The APU and GPU for the deck makes more games compatible for it right out of the box, and the processor was designed from the ground up to be optimized for the 4 to 15 watt power adapter. Memory used is LP5, and Steam Deck is one of the first devices to utilize LP5 due to bandwidth and power efficiency. 16 gigabytes for future proofing in a sense, so future titles can be run on the device as well. No overclocking, as the performance you have at the start of the game will also be the same performance hours down the line throughout the completion of the game. You should get the same performance no matter if you're docked, charging, on the go, downloading games, etc. In reference to battery life, there will be FPS limits, whether 60 frames per second to match the display or 30 frames per second for more GPU hungry games. If the game already has an FPS limit, then great. But otherwise, Valve is working on a global FPS limiter that will let us, the user, pick the balance between performance and battery life. Power consumption during sleep. Valve wants us to be able to suspend a game and walk away for hours to days, and then be able to jump back into the game with no issues, but encourage devs to make sure that games are robust to sustain suspension for long periods of time. The USB-C port allows charging to sustain not only charging the device, but playing your games at full load. The port also allows external peripherals such as webcams, wired controllers, storage devices, docking, two 4K displays at 60 Hz. Audio. Built-in speakers, dedicated AMP and DSP that monitor speakers in real time and adjust the audio accordingly. Audio jack. Apple. Built-in microphone software approach by Steam itself, such as echo cancellation. Bluetooth audio. Bluetooth 5.0 should be able to use Bluetooth headphones and several Bluetooth controllers at the same time. Audio over HDMI or DisplayPort if docked. Wi-Fi AC supports up to 866 megabits per second bandwidth, so no bottlenecking likely when you're downloading. Storage. SD card reader. Loads games about 18% slower compared to the NVMe 512GB SSD. The 64GB eMMC boots 25% slower compared to 64GB SSD. Questions. Again, these are paraphrased. Does the Steam Deck support multi-threading? Yes, up to 8 threads. Any plans to add 5G or LTE? No, not at this time, but you can always tether your phone if you have no Wi-Fi coverage. Any recommendations of maximizing battery life? Start with frame per second limiting. So start with FPS limiting. What about deck suspend resume? From experience, most games work fine out of suspend. In theory, all games should run well right out of the box. Will there be a spare parts store available? Will there be a timeline for it? No details at this time, but they are working on making spare parts available after ship. Any hardware improvements? Currently working on the current gen deck and making sure it is optimized. Nothing to share right now, but they are looking at multi-generational product. How much VRAM is on the Steam Deck? 1 gigabyte dedicated for GPU, but GPU can support up to 8 gigabytes, so up to 8 gigabytes for a game. Will the performance of the deck be any different while plugged in or running off battery mode? It'll be about the same across the board. Ethernet speed docked. Dock supports 1 gigabyte Ethernet. Steam on deck. So this is another section that was Tom Bowie, who is the programmer on Steam Deck, and Tucker Spofford, who is the designer at Valve. So they were speaking about Steam Cloud will allow you to play a game on your PC and pick it up where you left off on the deck. If you have mods acquired from the Steam Workshop, they will work on the deck. You can unlock achievements even if you're not on the internet. Once you go back online, the Steam client will sync back to the servers. Community features will be available as well. Game hubs, forums, and activity feeds will be accessible. Changes to friends list and chat will be implemented to make it easily accessible on the deck. You can use voice chat to communicate with your friends. Nintendo. The first page on the deck will house the Steam Deck verified games, which are games that work well on deck. You can still see all the other games and the rest of the catalog, wish list, daily deals, etc. New features on the deck will be like a home screen. It brings together things such as your library, your friends, the Steam store, all in one place. A universal search brings you games from friends, store, library, etc. They're also working on a keyboard layout that implements more languages and even emojis. Notifications are now accessible from a dedicated button on the Steam Deck, which lets you see what's happening no matter where you are within the UI. So again, we have questions that are paraphrased. Will this UI on the deck replace Big Picture, and if so, when? Eventually, yes, but they are now focusing on getting the Steam Deck shipped. Soon, yes, it will replace Big Picture. Does deck only support full screen mode? On the deck, yes, but docked, you can run a game in windowed. Is SteamOS a general purpose OS? Yes, it's a separate OS, and again, they are focused on getting the deck out to the consumer. They hope to release to other platforms. Does deck support installing software outside of Steam and use with Proton? Yes, you can install any game like you would on the Steam desktop, and it would show up like any other game on PC. Will Steam Deck support VR? Technically, yes, but the deck was not designed for VR. Proton support. So Pierre Lou Graphius, we just gonna say Pierre Lou, spoke about Proton support. So Proton is a compatibility layer distributed through Steam to make Windows-based games compatible with SteamOS. It is downloaded automatically and set to run for any game that needs it. It is not an emulator, so your games run as is without any modifications. So here are questions, again, paraphrased. Will Proton testing be a part of the game submission process? Yes. Will be a part of the deck verified process before release. Will apps that are not on Steam work with Proton and run on the deck? Yes. Proton works great with non Steam games. What kernel version will be used on Steam OS? They're always looking to update the latest kernel version and currently on version 5.13 and working on version 5.15. Will Steam OS have a read only immutable OS file system? Yes. You can enter developer mode that will let you modify the file system and install packages like a normal distribution. Any known performance hit to existing games or any missing functionality. No known functional differences or performance problems. Are you working with Epic Games and Unity about the Steam Deck? Yes, we're making sure Unreal and Unity engine have the integration to make the dev experience working on these engine games work as smooth as possible on deck. Can more than 1 GB GPU memory be used for things such as textures or buffers? Yes, up to 8 GB can be shared and can be shared on a game by game basis. Do you prefer a game to use Proton or have native Linux support? Whichever will provide the best experience. Is there a standard way to report Proton issues? Yes, the GitHub or Steamworks forums. Then we have the APU and with AMD. So Sebastian Nussbaum, who's the Corp VP of Products and Technologies, who spoke about APU with AMD. So APU was designed from the ground up to sustain consistent performance for an extended period of time. First mobile APU graphics that house the same RDNA2 graphics housed in high-end PCs and consoles. It's also the first to use LPDDR5 memory technology. This section is super short because, again, this included a ton of technical stuff that was for developers. So I skipped a lot of that and as far as taking notes. So we'll just go into the questions that Sebastian and Alex Ducher had answered. So will the deck support the Vulkan dynamic rendering feature? Yes. Software support, but the question is driver support. Will AMD FSR be in Steam Deck? For some applications, yes. Will be included in part of the OS. Does Steam Deck's APU support Smart Shift? Yes. Will AMD GPU Profiler run on Linux natively? Yes. So then we get into Steam Input by Scott Dalton. Again, a lot of this stuff is paraphrased. A lot of stuff was omitted because it's super technical. So I did not bother to put all that information in here. So Steam Input has support for Steam Deck controls, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, Pro controllers, and direct input for the flexibility that PC gamers have come to love. Steam Input assists when on-screen buttons don't match the input from the controllers. Steam Input offers an action API that assists with mapping actions that you're wanting to take. So instead of pressing A to jump, the system would be looking for that action to jump instead. These actions can be mapped to gyros, additional buttons, or even the trackpad. Steam Deck has capacitive touch joysticks and trackpads, so a way to use gyro is to only activate it with touch of one of the controls. The touchscreen by default acts as a mouse pass-through. Again, we have questions. Will Valve be encouraging devs to implement gyro trackpad aiming as opposed to the traditional layout? It depends on the game and what controls you're looking to have. What of local co-op and multiplayer games? You can play local co-op by Steam Deck using Bluetooth controllers or a hub connected to the deck enabling wired gameplay, Or you can stream by one player playing on PC and the other player playing on a deck. Will there be multiple input methods? Yes. Will devs be able to create Steam Deck Steam input configs without dev kits? Yes. You can use any controller, but the PlayStation controller has the closest set of controls comparable to the deck. Does Valve encourage games that need mouse interaction to be replaced to Steam touch screen? If your game is targeting touch interactions, then yes, you can use the touch screen. Is there any latency with the Steam Deck? There shouldn't be. If there is, then you should contact Valve. Will touch menus be supported on deck touchscreen? Virtual menus aren't supported, but they are looking at ways to support by touchscreen. There are similar things available for streaming on phones and tablets, but nothing is etched in stone yet. So then they have the final set of questions. So we're almost done, guys. And if you are still here, hey, kudos to you. I greatly appreciate you guys. Thank you so very much, because this took several days to get situated for you guys. So Lawrence Yang and Greg Coomer had addressed the final questions. Again, not all questions are documented because they are very technical and for the devs. So, when will the deck be available to more territories around the world? They still don't have any information to announce just yet, but are working on plans for Japan and Australia right now. Could a developer make a game exclusively for Steam Deck? No, it's a PC, so it should play games like a PC. How long does the deck verify process take? Within a week of submission, they hope to have results available to you. It depends on the size and complexity of the title as well. Will there be other color options of the Steam Deck? Down the line, there will be. So here you go. Down the line, they're going to have different colored decks, y'all. That's big. How do you decide who gets a dev kit? They look at the community interest of the title of your game, as well as the top titles of games being played by people who have reserved a Steam Deck. Will Deck Verified show up on PC in the store? If you own a deck and go to the store on PC, you will see the extra row on the game page as well as in the search. Will there be a way to install external apps on the deck without going into developer mode? Yes, there isn't a specific dev mode to unlock, and anybody can add apps to the deck without having to have, special developer options available to them. So basically, that is the gist of this 4-hour stream. Close to 4 hours, y'all. I'm sorry, my allergies are starting to act up. But yes, I wanted to do this. I have been wanting to cover information on the Steam Deck for some time, but for whatever reason, I haven't been able to do so. So this is my contribution to speaking on the Steam Deck, and I hope you all have enjoyed this information here. Again, it took me a few days to get all this stuff down pat and watching the conference and things like that. So I hope you guys have learned some things that you may not have known previously about the deck. I know I have. And also, if you're not currently subscribed to the channel, it would mean a great deal to me if you were to hit that subscribe button, because 90-something% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed. It is free, guys. So if you enjoy the content, please feel free to do that and help out the channel as well. But I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. That'll be it for this video. You have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'm sure someone will be able to help and address that. Your comments, so if I'm unable to do so. But till next time, guys, take care, be safe, love one another, and we'll see you on the next one.